He signed the executive order declaring that DEI is both unlawful and a threat to national unity. And I just kind of want to ask you to elaborate on why DEI is unlawful.
Well, based on the Civil Rights Act, which I have disagreements with, but based on the Civil Rights Act, which is the law of the land, it says you shall not discriminate based on color, race, creed, or origin of nationality.
Yes.
And DEI definitionally does those things.
How does it definitionally do those things?
So, for example, if you say you are going to hire a certain amount of people or have scholarships only for a certain people, you are then prejudicing against another group.
Which group are you prejudicing against?
White people, Asians as well. I mean, white people are an easy one off the top of your head. So, for example, in the Harvard admissions case, I said this earlier, the average test score for a black individual was around 1,300 SAT, about 3.2 GPA. For a white or Asian, it would be about a 3.9 to 4 GPA and about nearly a perfect SAT. So you are disenfranchising and stereotyping and prejudicing against whites or Asians in favor of blacks.
You're not prejudicing against whites or Asians, though, because DEI is not on a race basis. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion of all people. Affirmative action is what is intended to address racial inequality, but DEI isn't on the basis of race.
Well, so DEI...
At a Turning Point USA event, this young black college sister stood up and completely destroying Charlie Kirk with argument, facts, and that classic type of cerebral accuracy that makes racists shiver. She exposed his hypocrisy on merit, disproved his day arguments, and made him appear as though he wanted to crawl under the podium. Here's the problem, though. After his passing, MAGA is now referring to this same Charlie Kirk as a protector of Western civilization and a martyr for free expression, utterly disregarding the reality that the very black students he claimed were unfit for hire. Education spent his professional life intellectually destroying him. It is like seeing people erect a statue for someone who lost every debate they have ever had, as Chile watches MAGA attempt to canonize a man who couldn't even manage simple inquiries from college students. How are you, family? Welcome back to Chronicles of Blacks, where we chronicle the collision of white mediocrity and black intellectual prowess in academic settings and give you the raw facts on why our minds perceive them as such a threat. Welcome to the They Can't Handle Our Intelligence headquarters if this is your first visit. A large glass of your heroes can't debate our students is served alongside facts and academic receipts. Make sure you press the like button before we begin this cerebral assault. It lets the algorithm know that we're providing the kind of instructional material that causes discomfort yet is urgently needed. What are you waiting for if you haven't subscribed yet? We are creating a community of individuals who recognize that the counterbalance to white supremacist propaganda is black intellectual superiority. Let's now discuss these receipts because, honey, there is more documentation on the timeline of this college discussion annihilation than there is on a doctoral thesis defense. What we know is as follows, and I received the dates, universities, and the whole intellectual breakdown that included MAG's request that black students not be allowed to ask questions. 2018 through 2024. Charlie Kirk uses Turning Point USA to visit hundreds of campuses, focusing on black students enrolled in DEI programs. Plan for a campus tour. Kirk purposefully travels to HBCUs and other diverse colleges to test the qualifications and merits of black students. Black pupils who arrive prepared with facts, figures, and historical context routinely outperform the debate pattern. Moments that become viral. A number of films show black kids refuting Kirk's claims regarding educational parity, systematic racism, and affirmative action. MAGA reaction. The conservative media portrays Kirk as an intellectual champion while ignoring his debate defeats. Story after death. MAGA tries to change the course of events after Kirk is shot by claiming that he is a good debater, in spite of video evidence to the contrary. Kirk was being intellectually demolished by college kids on live camera. And the same people who were proclaiming him a genius were also the ones who witnessed it. This is where things start to get hot. Kirk's entire brand was based on his assertion that black students lacked qualifications and that diversity hiring was necessary. Yet he was unable to defeat the students he was disparaging in any argument. What this young sister said that made Charlie Kirk appear to wish to move to a different university is what I'm going to depict now.
He signed the executive order declaring that DEI is both unlawful and a threat to national unity. And I just kind of want to ask you to elaborate on why DEI is unlawful.
Well, based on the Civil Rights Act, which I have disagreements with, but based on the Civil Rights Act, which is the law of the land, it says you shall not discriminate based on color, race, creed, or origin of nationality.
Yes.
And DEI definitionally does those things.
How does it definitionally do those things?
So, for example, if you say you are going to hire a certain amount of people or have scholarships only for a certain people, you are then prejudicing against another group.
Which group are you prejudicing
So
against?
white people, Asians as well. I mean, white people are an easy one off the top of your head. So, for example, in the Harvard admissions case, I said this earlier, the average test score for a black individual was around 1,300 SAT, about 3.2 GPA. For a white or Asian, it would be about a 3.9 to 4 GPA and about nearly a perfect SAT. So you are disenfranchising and stereotyping and prejudicing against whites or Asians in favor of blacks.
You're not prejudicing against whites or Asians, though, because DEI is not on a race basis. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion of all people. Affirmative action is what is intended to address racial inequality, but DEI isn't on the basis of race.
Well, so DEI is a project of the affirmative action movement. So one comes before the other. He signed an executive order against both, for the record, so I wasn't sure which one you were talking about.
I'm talking about DEI.
So DEI, it depends what we mean in practice. So I can give you one example. There are black-only graduation ceremonies at certain schools, or black-only dormitories.
But those are kind of student-led. I'm part of a black-only
let's play this out.
organization,
So
and it's run by students. It's not
fair
through
enough.
the school.
Let's play it out. So if there is a black-only, let's pretend, which it's not, that building is black-only. If I said that, if that building was
I'm
white,
like the campus center?
no, I said let's pretend it's not.
Yes, hypothetically, yes.
Hypothetically, if that building was white only, you would agree that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act.
Yes, but there
Hold
are
on,
no buildings on campus that are black only and white only.
Well,
and by the way,
but there are on other campuses.
no,
though.
but in those dormitories that are like culturally specific, you don't have to be that culture to live there. They're not going to not allow you to be black, to live in a black dormitory.
You would
no,
be, you'd be
Ujima at
surprised.
Stanford. White people do live at Ujima. That's not.
Yeah, I don't know about that specific example, but if it says black-only dormitory.
But it doesn't say black only.
But okay, how about this? How about if we had? Well, it does.
It
But
doesn't. Where does it say that?
Just to be clear, well, in the title. But let's pretend
but
it says
where?
black.
Like what school? Where does it say black only building?
Eastern Washington University, Portland State University, just off the top of my head, San Jose State University.
They say black only dormitory? And if a white person were to apply to live there?
It's a black affinity
They would
cultural
not.
space of which only black individuals are accepted and governed for black individuals. But can we have white affinity cultural spaces?
You can have a white affinity cultural space. The activity is, the issue is
See,
that
I
you're
think
saying
that's against
black
the Civil Rights
only.
Act.
It's not black only. It's a black affinity cultural space. But anyone is invited if they would like to participate.
I would, first of all,
You cannot legislatively not
I
allow
agree.
someone of any race to participate in
no,
something. That doesn't exist.
We agree. That's the spirit of the diversity, equity, inclusion order, is that DEI in practice, again, we have to go through example after example, is discrimination, prejudice,
Well,
and
let's
segregation.
talk about DEI in practice. Let's
Okay.
talk about DEI programs in the workforce, because DEI programs in the workforce happen to benefit veterans, they benefit people with disabilities, they benefit people at an economic desperate, they benefit lots of people that is not just on the basis of race. And to me, it feels like you're conflating DEI with pro-blackness or black only,
So
which is
let's-
not the definition of DEI.
So let's take a high-profile DEI example. Is that cool? Just maybe one we can play around with?
Okay.
Which I got me in a lot of viral trouble, which I don't care, which is pilots.
I got in a lot of viral trouble too. I
Hey.
was debating this guy,
I
you
know. And you kept interrupting you.
You did!
I know, right? Which is that, let's say DEI. A project of DEI at United Airlines was that we want to get 40% of our pilots to be black or women of color, or women or people of color.
40%.
50, I'm sorry, to get up to 50. It was at like 6%. So therefore, they wanted to make a push towards that, and it was currently at 6%. We look at that and we say, wow, you're going to have to lower standards to get to that goal.
Why would you have to lower standards?
Well, because...
Are you saying that black people are inherently inferior?
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that, A, black people are only 13% of the population, so you want 13% of the population.
Women are not 13% of the population. Women are 50% of the population.
Yeah, but women do not make up a majority of people that want to become pilots. In fact, vast majority of women don't want to be pilots.
Maybe they would want to become pilots if the barriers for entry weren't...
See, now we're going down a different but equally fun direction, which is male-female differences. Men much more likely want to be involved in heavy machinery mechanics. They want to be pilots. They want to be tank operators. They want to be police officers. Whereas women much more likely want to be, I'll get to you, Mason. Don't worry. And I remember your name.
Yes, can Mason go? They won't let him go.
I'll let Mason go.
We would like to briefly discuss his day policy. He signed the executive order during his first few weeks in office, as you are aware. Order stating that day is against the law and a danger to national cohesion. Additionally, I would need you to briefly explain why day is illegal. Although I disagree with it, the Civil Rights Act, which is the law of the land, states that you cannot discriminate on the basis of race, color, creed, or national origin. Indeed, and day does those things by definition. Now keep on, keep on, keep on. Charlie Kirk was just caught in his first lie by his sister in less than 30 seconds. He instantly said that he disagreed with the Civil Rights Act, the landmark piece of legislation that outlawed discrimination. When she asked a straightforward question about DEI being illegal, she revealed that he doesn't have a legal basis for opposing day. It stems from his disapproval of civil rights in general. But hold on. Things get better, because I'll show you how she methodically ruined his comprehension of what day meant in reality. However, since day is not based on race, you are not discriminating against Asians or white people. Diversity, equity, and inclusion of all individuals are what day stands for. While day isn't based on race, affirmative action is meant to alleviate racial inequalities. Here's what happens when someone doesn't just reiterate talking points, but genuinely understands what they're talking about. Charlie Kirk was just taught by this sister the distinction between affirmative action and day, which he had been disparaging for years without realizing. She demonstrated how he has been targeting things he doesn't even understand, confusing several projects and misrepresenting their goals. That goes beyond simply winning a discussion. That would be giving someone in dire need of education for free. Let me now show you the point at which she truly began cooking, since she questioned his entire theory on qualifications and merit. Let's discuss day in action. It is appropriate to discuss day programs in the workplace since they are beneficial to veterans. People with disabilities gain from them. They help others who are less fortunate financially. Many people gain from them. That goes beyond racial considerations. Additionally, it seems to me that you are confusing day with being pro-black or exclusively black. That's not what day stands for. This sister simply refuted his entire thesis by pointing out that day programs benefit not only black people, but also veterans, the disabled, and those in economic hardship. She revealed that he is actually against assisting any marginalized group, not just ethnic minorities, which is why he opposes day. She demonstrated how he has been using day as a dog whistle for everything that benefits non-white guys. However, she challenged him on his aviation example, which is where she truly dropped the knockout punch. Why would standards need to be lowered? Because you're implying that black people are inherently different. The contrary is what I'm saying. I'm stating that only 13% of the population is black. In other words, you desire 13% of the population. Women do not make up 13% of the total population. Half of the population is female. Charlie Kirk was just overheard by his sister, suggesting that lowering standards is necessary to increase diversity. The traditional prejudiced presumption that women and black people are less competent. She countered his own reasoning by pointing out that women make up half of the population. Therefore, women should make up 50% of pilots, not the negligible amount they now make up if representation matches the population. She revealed that his merit argument is actually an attempt to uphold white male power. She revealed his merit argument to be a defense of white male power. This is where I really need your attention, since MAG's statement is so blatantly hypocritical. It has its own seat on the Supreme Court and congressional district. This is the same group that asserts Charlie Kirk was a giant of intellect and a skilled debater. However, we have video proof that college students destroyed him. They claim that he stood up for qualifications and championed merit. However, he was unable to defeat the pupils, he said, lacked qualifications in a debate. Despite his constant poor performance in discussions, they assert that he was fighting for quality and against lowering standards. He is said to be a free speech hero. However, he dedicated his professional life to stifling the very pupils who were voicing their opinions openly and eloquently. No, not this infant girl. No. When someone loses every debate, you can't call them a brilliant debater. When someone was unable to prove their own merit, you cannot say that they defended it. Someone who performed mediocrely at best cannot be said to have fought for perfection. You guys are experiencing tremendous cognitive dissonance. However, since this is about more than one argument or even one bigot who died, let's take a moment to zoom out. This relates to the reaction of white supremacists when black intellectual prowess cannot be discounted, denied, or rationalized. You see, the foundation of Charlie Kirk's entire brand was the falsehood that black students are less capable, qualified, and clever than white students. People's belief that diversity programs exist because black people cannot compete on merit was essential to his entire career. However, the true threat that black intellectual excellence poses to white supremacy is that he consistently, repeatedly, and embarrassingly lost when he actually faced black students in debate settings, had to defend his ideas against black intellectual challenges, and had to compete on the very merit he claimed to champion. It dispels the myth that white people are innately superior to other races in terms of intelligence, qualifications, and ability. Family, let's be clear. DEI was never the enemy. Ignorance was. And Charlie Kirk proved it every time he confused diversity with discrimination or merit with monopoly. His career depended on misrepresenting progress, but when confronted with truth, he collapsed under the weight of his own contradictions. The real story is not about one man stumbling. It's about what his failures exposed, that equality. Inclusion and black brilliance are not weaknesses to be explained away, but strengths the system has never been able to silence. That's the lesson. That's the threat to white supremacy. And that's why we keep building, keep speaking, and keep proving with merit, with truth, and with excellence who we really are.